Good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome to Masterclass Friday. My name is Terry White, worldwide photography evangelist here at Adobe, and it's my pleasure to be streaming to you live once again on my favorite day of the week, Masterclass Friday. So if you're new to our Adobe live streams, if you're new to the Masterclasses on Friday, if you're new to me, welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Friday, everyone. I just want you to know that we're going to start off with just the usual couple housekeeping rules, and then we'll dive right into today's topic. So first rule is that enjoy yourself. No, besides that, just kidding. Second rule, we do these master classes, and when I say we, I mean the Adobe Evangelism team, which consists of myself, Paul Tranny, who's on sabbatical, Jason Levine, who does audio and video, and Howard Pinsky, who does UX UI design, and Kyle Webster, who does digital painting and drawing. So you have a full day every Friday that Adobe is, working and open for business. Full Friday of master classes, and even when one of us is off, I think they do replays. So like while Paul's been off for the sabbatical, they've been doing his replays, so you still get classes, and many of which you probably haven't seen unless you've been starting with us from the beginning. So with that said, if you're watching this, I see some folks chiming in on YouTube over there. I see Andrew Kavanaugh and Franco and Marilyn. Great, welcome. You can hang out wherever you happen to be. You could be on YouTube, you could be on Twitter, you could be on LinkedIn, you could be on Facebook, you could be wherever you are, and that's cool. But if you want to participate in the chat, the one chat that I'll be most likely paying attention to, that will be the Adobe Live chat, which is at be.net/Adobe Live. So be.net/Adobe Live. Head over there with your Adobe ID, which you can create on the fly. It's free. You could even use social media to do it. And then you can go in and I'll see your questions and I'll see your comments. Now, that doesn't mean I won't get a chance to see the ones on the other platforms, but I will definitely see the ones on b.net/Adobe Live. So with that said, I see Levon Hall ready. I see Bobby Orlando. I see Roger Walton. I see Jesse. I see Cody Bear, our moderator. So let's just have a good time. And today is one of my favorite topics. I do this. Try to do it once a month, but I usually only do it maybe every couple months, and that is how I would edit your photos. So this is a whole session on pictures that users submitted, and I'm just showing you my take on how I would edit them. We may not agree. You may have said, well, I would do it a different way, and I would do it this way, and you're more than welcome to do it that way. They're your photos, but I'm showing you how I would do it. So it's okay to disagree with me. It's okay to agree with me. It's okay to, just as long as you're courteous either way. So with that said, let's see, is there anything else? I think that's it. So if you're saying, well, can I submit my photo now? Nope, it's too late. You would have needed to submit it by last night. So we have a deadline. I have a deadline. Usually the Thursday night before the stream, and I usually advertise it on my social media way before the stream even kicks off, like I started on Monday. So you get plenty of time, and users have seen that link and submitted lots of photos this week. And so I should have enough photos even from this week to do the whole hour, but if not, I have some that I didn't get to from previous sessions. So we'll get a chance to fill the hour no matter what with photos that users submitted. All right, so with that said, let me go ahead and turn off that banner. I do see one photo. Hang on. I'm just going to drag this one photo in the done category because we did do that one already. And let's get rid of this collection. And I think that is about it. Okay, we're ready to go. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. Let's switch over to my computer. Welcome, everybody. I see you all. I see Deb Davis, hey, and I see Henry, Lopez, and Keith, and everybody. So welcome, but let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so I'm going to switch over to my laptop, and I've got a catalog. By the way, so just so I don't mix up anything with any one of these images, I created a whole new catalog for this series. So when I do this, I open that catalog in Lightroom Classic, and I import the photos you've submitted. So these are all user submissions. None of these are my photos. And so one quick question that someone's asking, are these videos archived somewhere to watch again? Absolutely. You're asking that on YouTube, so you're already on my channel, and I already have a playlist called Photography Masterclass of every single episode I've ever done. So you can go back and watch every single one. And your username is iOS macOS Genius. So great, you're a genius. Go watch. All right, so with that said, let's dive into the first ones. Oh, Shayna's asking, how would you describe your style of editing? I guess I never thought of it in those terms, but I would say my style of editing is, since I do mostly portraits, I'll start with that, is to make the person look like they look in person. In other words, don't go over the top with the editing. Don't make it look like they would say, well, who's this? Because it's so much editing, it doesn't even look like them anymore. And I always say this when I'm doing portrait retouching and I'm talking to an audience, I say, when someone walks by you or stands in front of you for a conversation, you look at them and you glance and that's it. It's conversation. You don't stare at them, and if you are, you're creepy, but you don't stare at them 24/7 and pick out every little nook and cranny on their face. But unfortunately, with a high-def portrait, you do get to do that. So basically, I remove things that are temporary, pimples, things that wouldn't be there in 2 weeks. I try to leave things that are there, but if they're overly standing out because of the lighting or the angle or whatever, I might reduce them. So if I had to say what's my style of editing, I would say I try to do modest editing. I try to do natural editing. That would be my style. Now, I don't always accomplish that. I have definitely abused editing in the past and gone over the top. But that's what I strive towards is natural. All right, so let's go ahead and speaking of which, I've got this one submitted, and I was gonna save it till the end, but I don't want to run out of time. This is one that's like screaming for me I just want to do some fun things with this one. So what this photo is it's an old photo. And hang on, let me turn off the loop overlay, loop info. Let's not show the info. Okay. This is old time photo that's got a pink color cast on it, and it looks like it was shot from either a film or still or something like that, because I can see the border around it. But it's screaming for some coolness that could be done really easily to make this photo look better. All right, so for example, one of the things I noticed right off the bat, and people always say, well, where do you start? I start with the things that are bothering me right off the bat. So the first thing that bothered me is I zoomed in to see what this said, and I noticed it was backwards. So that means that this frame is literally just flipped the wrong way. So what I would do is, the first thing I would do is go to my photo menu, and I would say flip horizontal, just to get it going the right direction so that the text reads correctly, because that's the way it should be based on the photo on the wall or the book on the wall. So now that we took care of that, the next thing I would probably do is go ahead and crop it, because however this was scanned or photographed or whatever included this excess stuff around the image that we don't need. So let's just go ahead and hit the shortcut for crop in Lightroom Classic, which is the letter R for crop. That's an old joke. Don't beat me up. All right, so let's go ahead and just crop this in. And I'm just going to go ahead and crop it that way. And that way we just get rid of all that excess stuff. Okay, now the other thing it's screaming is that, well, actually there's two things. I noticed that when I was cropping, I probably could have straightened it a little bit. Notice that door line is a little crooked there. And so let's see if we can get this a little straighter. Okay, that seam in the door, I should say. And all right, so now we got it straightened out, we got it cropped. The obvious thing that's bothering me about this image is the pink or very pink overcast. Or color cast, I should say. And so I started out, when I first experimented with this photo, I started out saying, well, what if I just fix the white balance? So I went into the white balance eyedropper. This looks like some kind of tray or ashtray or dish or something on the table. And as I'm hovering over it, I can see in the upper left-hand corner what that's going to do to it in my preview. And I can click on it, and that definitely reduces that color cast down. And you noticed what it did for the tint? It brought the tint way towards green. And then I started going in and I started saying, okay, well, what if I went into color grading and I really just took the midtones, and since it was It was pink. You want to go in the opposite direction. So I started dragging it towards this way. And what I realized is that, yeah, while I could sit here for 15 minutes trying to get the color balance just right, at the end of the day, it's just going to be easier to convert it to a black and white. All right, so let's just do that. So let's undo. Let's get the pink out. Let's get back to the pink. And then let's go back up, go to our basic panel where we've got, first and foremost, oh, they shot this in RAW. So, okay, great. I can go ahead and convert it to portrait profile, and then I can go in, and actually, before I do that, I don't need to do that. I can go into and just make it black and white. So now it just starts to look way better as a black and white. So actually, I like black and white. Number 1 would be my first choice, but let me hover over some of the other ones. As I'm hovering over each one, I'm getting a preview on the main image to see which one I like best. So far, I still like number 1 the best, because it has the right amount of contrast. I could also go with number 11. Number 11 looks really good. I can go with number 11. Yep, I would say number 11. Let me look at number 1 again. Number 11 it is. So just hovered over each one until I found the one I like the best, and I made that the default profile color. Or the default, I made that my choice for the profile, not default. So it's a black and white number 11, that particular profile. Now, I could still go in and I could do auto tone. And auto tone increased the contrast a little bit, maybe a little bit more than I wanted. It brought down the exposure a bit, so I might want the exposure taken back up just a hair. Because again, I've said this a million times, I don't always agree with what auto does on every single slider, but for the most part, it usually gets things right. Now I can also see, now that I've kind of fixed some of the most egregious stuff in the image, I could also now start to see, oh, there's some water stains on the photo or some kind of stain on the photo, like, because I can see the outline of it here. And I can see maybe, I guess that's the outline of one here. I can't tell if that was on the wall or not, but it looks like it's some kind of stain on it. Now that kind of detailed work, obviously I would go into Photoshop to fix. And we're going to head to Photoshop for a different reason, but I'm just letting you know, now that I kind of fixed most of that other stuff, I can start to zero in on the other things that I need. Now, while we're at this, and while you're asking the questions of, okay, how much work is it going to take to fix these stains on the wall? I would challenge you and say, do you need that wall? like in other words, obviously she's the subject. And like she's at the desk, on the phone, got a portrait here, a book on the wall. Like this is where you want your user to focus, you want your viewer to focus their attention. So the question then becomes, do you want to see this other stuff? Do you want to spend time fixing this in Photoshop? Or, and if you say this thing on the wall is important, then keep it. But if not, then I would say, well, can I crop in a little bit more and then I don't have to spend time fixing all that stuff, because this is what we should be looking at anyway? Just a question. That's up to you. So since this is how I would do it, I would say that stuff's probably not important. I'm going to crop in and concentrate on our subject. All right, so now that reduced the amount of stuff I got to go fix, because it wasn't important anyway. It's just stuff I would be spending time on, working on, that is irrelevant to the subject. Now that I got that done, the next thing that I'm just dying to try is we took a scan that was shot with probably a DSLR or mirrorless camera that was shot in RAW. We came in and we did some things to it in Lightroom. We flipped it, we black and whited it, we cropped it, we straightened it, we kind of did some things like that. Now, what else can we do? That's where we head to Photoshop. So I'm going to just back out of this for a second so it shows you what you've done so far. I'm going to hit Command E on the Mac, Control E on Windows. That since it's a RAW file, that will open it up in Photoshop as a copy. I still have the original RAW file that I can always go back and completely undo. But now I've got this copy in Photoshop that I can continue doing stuff with. And one of the first things I want to try, well, actually, Yeah, one of the first things I want to try is I want to go to filter menu, come down to neural filters, because in neural filters we've got this great colorize that's been enhanced for portraits. And when I hit the colorize, it does a really good job of colorizing this old photo. And I could kind of like live with that. Like that looks good from a I just did one click and nothing else. I can live with that. So then I could go in and start saying, okay, well, it's a little bit of a blue tint up here, and it's still a shadow of something up there. There's this weird pattern on the wall, and looks like something happened here where it's like overexposing this one spot. And, you know, I could start fixing the little things in the background. But yeah, this is what I got with one click of colorize. All right, so scrolling. All right, so now I'm telling this always to output that colorization as a new layer. So when I click OK and come back to Photoshop, that colorization is just on a layer all by itself. So I can go in and tweak the colorization if I want. I could mask it in the areas I don't need it in. So for example, maybe I don't need that, like, because you look at the wall, it made the wall extra blue for no reason. So I could say, hey, you know what? By the way, my screen is not, there we go. I can say, by the way, you know what? Let's go ahead and down here at the bottom and click add a layer mask. And let's grab a brush tool. And we're on black paint. Great. And I'm just going to, oh, we got a really small brush. Let's make the brush a lot bigger. All right. And then I could just say, you know what? We don't need that colorization on the wall. Let's keep the wall the neutral color that it was. And so I can just mask out all of this extra colorization it did on the wall for no reason. And I would zoom in and do a better job and take my time. And if this was the only image I had to do today, that's what I would spend time doing. But you get the idea. I'm just telling you the things I would focus on right now. Okay, so now that's looking pretty good. I don't know if I would take it off this wall or not. Undo. Actually, I kind of like it on that wall the way it is. All right, so great. Now that I've got that in place, the next thing I might start doing is trying to fix some of the little just glitches in the image or the scan or the watermarks or whatever happened on this photo. So I'm going to take my original background, this black and white, my colorization layer that I masked and took it off some spots. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit all the keys on the left, basically Command, Option, Shift, E, BC, Control, Alt, Shift, E. And what that will do is it will take the combination of all the layers you have and make a new layer. So I'm making basically a new working layer for removing all the little things, the little distractions in the photo. So for example, we can even rename this working layer. All right, so now I got my working layer and turn off the other layers because they're hidden anyway. And I can zoom in and I can say, well, what's going on here? Is that the pattern in whatever this is? Or is that just some kind of weird pattern in the scan or the photo? I'm going to guess it's a weird pattern in the scan and the photo. So I'm going to go ahead and just start taking something like my patch tool. And I'm just see if I can start patching some of this out. And being very careful not to get her finger. Yeah, just kind of removing some of the stuff that is just taking your attention away from the subject. I probably screwed up the alignment of that last one, but that's okay. There we go. Same kind of thing here. And I love the patch tool because it gives you that preview before you let go to make sure things are still lined up. So I can have this preview, I can drag it around until I know it's lined up and then let go and it will do the patch. So same kind of things here where you got like this little mark, get rid of that. So now I'm just doing image cleanup at this point. So like, yeah, all these little lines and dust marks and pieces of hair or whatever this might have been on the photo itself when it was scanned. Just kind of removing some of this, whatever this is in the photo. And I would take my time. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I would take my time and go around the photo, kind of cleaning that up. Now, when I get up here to this wall, this is the first thing that grabs my attention because it's just a dark spot for some reason. I don't know what that was, but I would patch that out. And by the way, when you use your patch tool, as I've said a million times, you've got normal versus content aware. Normal is kind of when I want it to blend in. Content aware is when I want it to be more exact. So like if I was trying to match a pattern, probably want to use content aware. I'm trying to just blend it in and you won't notice the pattern, then I would use normal. So same kind of things here where like here the pattern, you have to match it because it's a dead giveaway if you don't. Like for example, so if I take out this one little piece, I kind of got to make sure it matches the rest of the pattern because you'll see it if I don't. It'll be like visible that something happened in that spot, something not good. All right, so you just got to be careful when you do little things like that. But over here where the pattern's less noticeable, you might be able to get away with it on normal because, you know, the pattern's less noticeable. So you can't really tell where one shape starts and one shape ends. You have a little bit more freedom to kind of patch out some of the stuff that's in this wall. Now, again, if you do the same spot over and over again, you're likely going to get a pattern. So it will be noticeable that you're doing it because you're kind of doing it in the same spot over and over again. So just, you might want to pick different spots to patch from so that it doesn't look like a repeating pattern because you keep grabbing from the same spot. All right, there we go. So I'm just kind of like reducing this visible line or vine going up the wall here. And who knows, that might have been part of a wallpaper or whatever design this is on the wall, but I can't tell. So again, I wasn't there. I don't know this room, so I'm going to guess that it wasn't, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'm sure I'll be wrong again. All right, and then you got some discolorization here that's kind of not matching. That could have been caused by the colorize in Photoshop. And so I might take that color and just paint over this in the color mode to kind of blend that color in since it's not patching very well. So let's undo, 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 put it back. And so in that case, what I would do is just grab my brush, hold down my Option or Alt key to kind of get that beige color, something like that, and then switch my mode of the brush to color, and then make my brush smaller. So that way I'm just painting that color on the parts of the wall that were kind of bluish. There we go. Just to make that blend in a little bit more. So again, this wall's not going to be perfect, but you're kind of just trying to take away some of the stuff that makes it look like people would look at that and say, what's that on the wall? So same thing down here, you got this dark spot. Yeah, color was not going to do it, so I could probably do a lighten. Let's try that. Let's grab the color, switch the blend mode to lighten instead of color. And painting with blend modes is kind of cool because you're just using it. Now, the problem is, though, you're just painting the color, not the transparency. So you kind of like are going to lose the pattern in that spot. So you might want to go back to patching. That was just not going to work. All right, and just want to see if the patch would work. Yeah, the patch will work, so just keep patching that corner out until you've lightened it up a bit. And there are other methods to lighten it as well, but patch is working in this case. All right, so it takes the time doing that. I see a little line here on the door. Let's go ahead and just patch that line out. There we go. And any little, again, dirt, dust, this is all stuff from that was on top of the photo when the photo was taken. So just, and some of the stuff I'm patching out is on my monitor. So clean your monitor before you do one of these sessions because it doesn't really exist in the photo. I'm seeing little dark spots. All right. And that would be my take on this photo. You can, of course, spend more time now just nitpicking, doing little things, little tweaks here and there. But from where we came from, which was that, actually we started with pink, to this, I think we've made some improvements. All right, so let's go ahead and save it. That will save it with all the layers. Depending on your preference in Lightroom Classic, it will either save it as a TIFF or a PSD. I usually change mine to PSD. So then we'll go ahead and close this and head back to Lightroom Classic, and we'll put it next to the original. So again, this is the original we started. Well, actually, it's not the original we started with. That's the, hang on. If we go back and reset this, let's go back and reset it back to the original. Or you know what? Let's do it the right way. Let's make a snapshot, and we'll call it Lightroom Edit. And then we'll go back in history to back when we first opened it. That's where we started. So if we go before, after, that would be my take on how I would edit that particular photo if the person that submitted it is in the room. Is there a link? Is there a new link for viewers to submit photos? The one below the stream is broken. No, the one below the stream is past due. In other words, Cody, as I explained, you have till Thursday night before the stream. I'll put up a new link for the next one. In other words, all the submissions are done for today. There is no more. That's it. That's why it doesn't work anymore. So it expired is what I'm trying to say. All right, so with that said, that's the before and that's the after. So that's my take on that particular photo. All right, and Nicholas, was that your photo? Yeah, it is your photo. So hopefully you got something out of that. I'm glad you were here live to see me do the things I would do to your photo. And actually, even then, remember, we flipped it. So this is not even the original. Let's reset it. I wonder why I didn't reset that one. Anyway, we flipped it. So the photo originally started out as that. All right, so that's the original. And then we go before, after. All right, let's move on to the next one. This next one, let's go full screen on it. Cool. It's just a nice image of a boat out in the blue shallow waters of some cool place. I don't know where this is, but let's go ahead and give you my take on it. This doesn't need nearly as much work as the other one. So let's go ahead and head over to the develop module. So first thing that always, when I'm looking at a landscape image, first thing that always catches my eye is the horizon straight? So this line right here, the horizon line, is not straight. At least it doesn't look straight to my eye. So if it doesn't look straight to my eye, I either straighten it or check it to see if it's straight. And then if it is straight, I was wrong, my eye was wrong. Or if it isn't straight, then I straighten it right there. All right, so next thing I'll do is I'll head over to the crop tool. And I'll go ahead and grab the angle tool. And we're back in Lightroom. So you can do this in Photoshop as well. There's a straighten tool in Photoshop. So I drag it along the horizon that should be straight, and then when I let go, it straightens it. So now my horizon's straight, and then I can move on to the other things in the photo. I couldn't get past that until I straightened the horizon. It was only just slightly off, but enough to bug me. All right, next up, I see the profile for this one is camera vivid, and this meaning this is the way it came from the camera. So I brought in the camera's profile, which is awesome. I could live with that, but I could also try landscape. And landscape just makes the colors just a little bit richer. So these profiles, by the way, if you're seeing them because you're working on a raw file. If you're not seeing them, it's because you're working on a JPEG or a TIFF or something else. So these are the Adobe RAW profiles for raw images. And what they're designed to do is give you a starting point. So landscapes use landscapes, people use portraits, so forth and so on. Adobe Standard makes it kind of flat. Adobe Vivid punches a little color into it. And Adobe Color is the older standard. Adobe Color is the newer standard from Adobe Standard. So in other words, I'm usually using landscape or portrait because those are the two types of images I'm usually working on. Okay, like I said, this one doesn't need a ton. It looks pretty good the way it is, but I'm going to go, I always hit auto just to see what auto is going to give me. And auto definitely made it even deeper colors, but I may not agree with the color choices it made. So for example, I don't think it needs that much saturation, even though it just gave it a little. I'm going to back off the saturation, just double click to get it back to 0. It may not even need this vibrance, double click to get it back to 0. All right, so a lot of that wasn't coming from there. It's probably coming from this contrast. Let's get it back to 0. All right, and then maybe the shadows were brought up a little too much. No, the shadows look good. Highlights brought down a little too much. Nope. Ah, the whites. Okay, so let's pump up the whites a little bit more. All right, so again, I'm just tweaking what auto did. Now, the only other thing is I noticed that the boat looks a little overexposed. So, like, you know, it's almost washed out on the top from the sun. Everything else I'm okay with, but that boat just looks a little washed out. So I may go ahead and do a little masking since we have the choice now. I might go in and do a select subject, which will should select the boat. Let's see. And it did. So select subjects is amazing in Lightroom Classic, and Camera Raw. And now that it's done that, the boat is what's being selected right now, and I can even name that mask boat. And so now that I got the boat mask, I can just go in and say, well, let's bring down the highlights on that boat. See how much, here, we'll zoom in. Let's see. I don't know if I can zoom in. There we go. Let's zoom in. All right, so now that we zoomed in, this is where we haven't done anything yet, and I'm just going to take the highlights and drag them down. Just bringing the highlights down a bit is just taking some of that overexposure that was happening on the boat, especially on the top here, down a bit. Now, I could take the exposure down, but I don't think the whole boat needs to be darker. I think just that highlight adjustment kind of gets me where I want to be. I can also increase the shadows a little bit because there's some dark areas in the stern of the boat there. I can just kind of bring those up a little bit. But overall, it's kind of like doing its thing. It's kind of looking the way I would want it to look. All right, so let's zoom back out. And like I said, there's not a whole lot this photo needs. It's just a couple of quick adjustments. There's nothing I would even take it into Photoshop to do. I'm done. Like, because now I'm just looking for other things to do just for the sake of doing them. Like, there's nothing else it needs. Now, I could, for example, also go to the next photo and hit develop. And I can also just click previous. And previous will bring over a lot of the adjustments, but they're wrong in this case because this photo doesn't need all of the same things. So let's go in and let's fix this things on this particular one very fast. Because I kind of explained all the things we were doing before. So let's go grab our angle, make sure the horizon is straight. Okay, it was pretty straight the way it was. Let's do this one's not a raw file, so I don't have to get those profiles, but let's do an auto. There we go. And yeah, this one's not overexposed. It looks fine. Like I could pull back on some of the stuff it did, but that's pretty much it. Doesn't need any more saturation. Doesn't need any more vibrance. Brought the exposure down a little bit. I would probably agree with that. And yeah, I kind of agree with the way this one is. So again, that last one, not a ton left to do to it. Okay, next one. This is my favorite subject, portraits. This is what I do. This is what I love to photograph the most. So I always love it when people submit portraits, even though I don't get that many. But thanks for submitting a portrait, whoever submitted this one. And portraits, again, I'm showing you what I would do. You and your subject have to do. So someone asked over there, but by the way, let me go back real quick. Someone asked a question on this one. What about sky replacement? What about it? It doesn't need it. I don't do sky replacement just for the sake of doing sky replacement. If it needed a better sky, I'd give it one. I'm okay with the sky it has. So if you think it needs a better sky, then by all means. All right, next up. So portraits. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. You again, when you're working with a person, you always have to take into account the person's needs and wants. So I don't know this person. I don't know the photographer. I'm just going to show you my techniques. All right, next up. So same kinds of things. It's a raw file. Great. Thanks for submitting a raw file. Let's switch it to Adobe Portrait and let's hit auto. Auto definitely improved it, brought out the skin tones a lot more, brought out the color of her blazer a lot more. Great. And so now you gave it quite a bit of headroom, like meaning the space between the top of the frame and her head. I'm not sure why, because I always tend to shoot less headroom unless I'm shooting for stock. Because if I'm shooting to submit this for stock, then I leave that extra copy space for someone that would use this image to put their message above it. But if you're shooting just for portraits, then I would not have that much copy space above it. I mean, well, head space above it. So let's hit the letter R for crop, and let's bring that down, and let's focus on the subject. All right, so I'm gonna bring that down a little bit, crop into it. And again, things I would do. So next things remember I talked about things I would take away, like these look like these are not permanent marks. So they should probably go. And I'm going to show you, could you do this in Lightroom? Sure. Would I do it in Lightroom? Probably not, because I can do it much faster and better in Photoshop. So you have a healing brush spot removal tool in Lightroom and Lightroom Classic, and even on mobile. And I can make my brush smaller to just get the area that I want to click. And when I click, it just grabs another spot and guesses. And in this case, it did fine. But then when you get into more detailed areas like, okay, there's a hot spot here from the light. There's like this little freckle mark, which is fine. It could stay. But like it just starts becoming more of a chore if it guesses wrong, having to move it to the spot to where it should have, where you wanted it. So if you only had a couple to do, sure, do them in Lightroom. If you had more than a couple to do, then I would just head over to Photoshop. And since I'm going to head over to Photoshop anyway, I would just assume do them in Photoshop. So I would not even have started this process in Lightroom unless I plan to only finish this and do this in Lightroom. All right, so now since I'm going to do more, let's head over to Photoshop, Command E, which will make a copy. It automatically makes a copy of a raw file. So when you see that I don't necessarily create a duplicate layer, like some people just, oh my God, you didn't create a duplicate of the background. How dare you? You're retouching on the background image. Because I already know I already have a copy. I already have a copy over in Lightroom if I need it. But for the sake of those who just, it just like chalk on the, or fingernails on the chalkboard, let's duplicate the layer. And now you're happy. All right, let's zoom in. And so then I would go ahead and switch over to my spot healing brush. Now you have the healing brush and the spot healing tool. The spot healing tool, which is the one I use the most, just automatically picks the surrounding pixels or skin to use. The healing brush is you hold down the Option or Alt key and click a spot that you want to use. So if you're trying to clone this exact spot onto this mark, then the healing brush is going to be better for you. If you don't care, then the spot healing brush will work fine. All right, so it just depends on which way you like to work. So I usually make my brush a little bit bigger or close to the size of what it is. I'm using my Wacom Cintiq, so I'm going to go ahead and just paint that out a little bit. Great. Same thing there. And just, again, these little stray marks, like little redness there in the nose, a little highlight there, a little highlight there. These little highlights, just using the surrounding nose to kind of dull those down a bit. Now, these are freckles, so they're fine. They should stay. I'm not sure what this dark mark is, so I'm just going to alleviate it. All right. Now, if the person has multiple holes for earrings, great, fantastic. But if the earrings aren't present, then I go ahead and get rid of it. So if the earrings are there, awesome. But if it's just a hole, then I go ahead and eliminate the hole without the hair. There we go. Because again, we're just focused on a hole that doesn't have an earring in it right now. So I will go ahead and eliminate it. All right. All the rest of that's good. A little bit of whatever that is right there. Okay, again, doesn't need really a whole lot. All right, just a personal thing for me is this is like my OCD. We all have necklines. Every single person on the planet above the age of 5 has a neckline. Uh, but I just don't like seeing them in portraits. So it's not something that I'm taking away because, oh my God, she's got a neckline. We all have them. I just like, it just serves no purpose for me to see it in the portrait. All right, so I'm going to take the patch tool and just patch it out. It's just my personal pet peeve. If you're okay with necklines, leave them in. Because like I said, we all have them if you're not a baby. And if you're a baby that stays up all night, you probably have one too. Because your head keeps, falling down while you're trying to sleep, trying to stay awake. All right, so now we get into the stray hairs. And just going to just patch some of that out. Great. All right, zoom out. Good, good, good. Now, then we have the obvious stray hairs around the outside of her head, especially at the top here. So just from years and years of shooting portraits, one of the best pieces of advice I can give you is have your subject or your hairstylist, before you snap that first shot, brush, just a quick brush, because it'll just save you so much time in post. If you don't have those little hairs sticking up, you won't have to deal with it. And it will literally take them 2 seconds to do a quick brush. That's it. Can you adjust the strength of the healing tool? Not the tool, but because you're using a pressure sensitive tablet or stylus, or in my case, display, don't press down as hard. So that's your way of adjusting how much. Next up, would you put it on a plain background? Seems to draw your eyes to it. So Ozzy's asking, would I put it on a plain background? It seems to draw your eyes to it. So let's go back to it. I don't have a problem with the lines or railings on the wall, whatever that is. I could replace the background and just make it plain, but that's not bothering me. So if it were bothering me, I'd absolutely replace the background, but in this case, it's not. I may do it just for you, for fun, but let me finish the things I was going to do first, and then we'll go from there. Okay. Hey, Robert. All right, back up to these stray hairs. So we know how to fix them going forward. Just make them not be there. Just quick brush, quick comb, whatever it takes, and they would not be there before you snap the shot. But since they're here now, we can fix these a variety of different ways. If the background is relatively not patterned, meaning this is a plain background, it's fairly easy to do this with the clone stamp tool. You could even try to start to get the bulk of it out with a patch first, and then fine tune it with the clone stamp tool. So I might do that. I might just grab my patch tool and get rid of the bulk of it, even though I'm not going to get rid of, it's not going to be a smooth transition. But let's just get rid of the bulk of that real fast. And when I say not a smooth transition, see how it's kind of blurred? So this might be one you might want to try on content aware. But content aware is going to give you another issue, potentially. It might show you a line where you did it. So in this case, it did not. So that's one of the differences between using content aware versus normal. So normal was trying to blend it in. Content aware says, nope, no problem. I'm going to do it right to the edge. All right, so that got rid of the bulk of it and actually did a good job of it. Now I would go in and fine tune it and get rid of it, like really bring it in closer. So to do that, I'm going to switch to my clone stamp tool, the letter S. I'm going to not use a soft brush. I'm going to use a hard brush. So I'm going to bring the hardness up all the way, or fairly close to all the way. And then I'm going to make my brush bigger. And I'm going to hold down my Option or Alt key and click right above where there is no hair. And then just really cleanly just give her a little bit of a haircut. Now, you would zoom in and you would do a better job of getting in real close. like that. And basically just bring it down to her hairline. Oh, hold on. Got a little carried away. Wasn't really looking at that other hair. But you'd smooth that out, and then you come over here and decide what you're going to do with this. So does this need to be, oh, hang on, need a new spot. Option or Alt click a new spot to the right. And come in closer. Something like that. Take your time, zoom in, get in really tight, get in really close. I'm just doing a quick down and dirty job, but we want to get rid of the stray hair as much as we can. And also watch where you're cloning from. Like you want your clone to be really adjacent to what you're doing, because otherwise you're going to then start introducing a mix in the pattern on the wall. Now some stray hair, see like that. That was because I wasn't adjacent. Some stray hair I'm okay with, like down by the ends there, but on top of the head is where it bothers me. Yeah, something like that. And you could, you could decide whether or not you want the sides closer, tighter, whatever. But I'm okay with that. All right, so for the sake of just the, oh, by the way, a couple other things. I noticed that there's a catch light in her eye that's kind of distracting. Like normally catch lights are fine. This one in the pupil is fine. These are kind of distracting. So let's go ahead and eliminate that. Grab my patch tool. Oh, and I probably want to switch that back to normal. Undo. There we go. Yeah, that's a hack job. We don't want that. Let's go back. All right, we're going to do clone stamp. Hold down our Option or Alt key, get right next to that. There we go. And same thing coming this way. And then make sure it's smooth. And something like that. All right, there we go. No problem on this side except for maybe this little piece here. And when we look at it now, it looks fine. All right, so for the person who said, would you want it on a different background? Again, I'm okay with it on the background, but if I did want a different background, let's go ahead and say, select subject. This will discontinue. Yes, I'm okay, fine, do that. Select subject, which has been designed to do a much better job with people and hair. And then we go into select, and we go into select and mask. And then I'm going to go ahead and I want to see it on. Hang on, cancel. It's because I've got the other background there. There we go. All right, so now let's go into select and mask. There we go. I wanted to see it on transparency and I couldn't because the other background was behind it. All right. Wow, it looks pretty good to me. There's not a whole lot more I would do. I would go ahead and turn on decontaminate colors. Kind of bring back in a little bit more of that hair. And I could go ahead and grab the refine tool and just make sure that I'm getting all the hair the way. There we go. Making more of that hair pop. All right. So now that's going to output this as a new layer, and it's still got the other background behind it, which is great. But now I can decide if I want whatever I want behind it. So for example, let's go into my library here of just images I have and see if I got anything cool to put behind it. Oh, we can put a solid color behind it. That's one way. Oh, actually, that's a vector. Sorry, can't do that. Hold on. All right, let's. I'm just trying to grab something quick, not necessarily something you would actually do. What's wrong with this one? Yeah. There we go. Let's pull it down since she's got on green too. That kind of works. And then we'll throw that behind her. And make it whatever background that would suit you. Now, the only thing that you'll notice is that when you're replacing the background is going to be whatever it is, and she's going to be whatever original color she was. So the problem then becomes if the background is totally different, like I chose green because she's wearing a green jacket or blazer. But if that was really off, then you might go in and select the subject that you just extracted, go into your neural filters again, and in your neural filters, you've got a brand new harmonization filter. Let's go ahead and turn that one on. It's going to ask us, what are we harmonizing this layer with? We're harmonizing this layer with, why don't I have that choice? Hang on. Why don't I have that? Oh, you know why? Let's do this. I should have that as a choice, but let's go ahead and layer. And I want to rasterize this layer. Okay, cool. Now let me try it again. Filter, neural filters, harmonization. Why is it not giving me that layer? It should give me that layer that I just created. I don't know why it's not. Interesting. Well, harmonization should let me choose this layer to harmonize against, and then give me that, like it will adjust the colors in this image accordingly. It may be that it's because of the mask. Let me try one thing real quick. Let me duplicate that layer. And by the way, duplicating a layer also fills in more hair. But anyway, let me turn this one off and let me go ahead and apply the mask. There we go. Let me try it one more time. Filter, neural filters, harmonization. There we go. I guess it didn't like the layer mask. Okay, so now you see that it toned the colors of her skin down to kind of blend more into the background. So this is before. See how orange, like just warm she is compared to now she's much more toned down because of the background that she's on, and you harmonized it with that background. So that's kind of another finishing move you might do when you're replacing the background, is use that harmonization capability so that you get kind of the same feel as if the person had been photographed against that background. And because it outputs as a new layer, you could always tone it down and say, well, that's a little too much. So I just use the opacity to bring that layer down, kind of bring back a little bit more of our color, but not so bright, not so much. All right, and that is unfortunately our time. Let me see if I got time to do another quick one, like in a minute, but I don't think I do, but let's see. Let's head back to Lightroom real fast. And oh my God, I can't wait to do this. This box was the other thing I was kind of like wanting to do, because I was going to remove the wires and crop into it. But let's just a couple things real quick. So I would go in Oh, so that one came back. Hang on. Go in, box. And I would go in and say landscape, and then I would auto, and then I would crop. Something like that. And then I would take it into Photoshop, and I would start removing the wires. That's it. That's what I would do with this photo. So using my, wrong tool. Using my spot healing tool, I would just start patching out the wire. Like that. And I would just keep doing it. All right, folks, we're out of time. Thanks for watching, and I'll save the rest of the images. We'll start next time on this image and finish it. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge.